Yesterday, we received a significant update on the Hillary Clinton email investigation that's currently ongoing by the FBI. The district judge in charge right now says that there's going to be a period of discovery over about 2 months of investigations, interviews, and more to try to find out what it is that apparently they haven't already found out with the dozens and dozens of people that are working on the investigation already. He said the circumstances surrounding approval of Mrs. Clinton's use of ClintonEmail.com for official government business, as well as the manner in which it was operated, are issues that need to be explored in discovery to enable the court to resolve, as a matter of law, the adequacy of the State Department's search of relevant records in response to Judicial Watch's Freedom of Information Act request. The order calls for depositions over the next 8 weeks of former Clinton Chief of Staff Cheryl Mills, former Deputy Chief of Staff Huma Abedin, and former Information Technology Specialist Brian Pagliano, who we'll return to because he's an important figure in this. Also, Undersecretary of State for Management Patrick Kennedy, former Executive Secretary Stephen Mull, and former Executive Secretariat Executive Director Louis Lucan.
What?
That is a long title. That's
What
like
the
Daenerys
F?
Targaryen's title.
Executive. What about the
He
executive?
controls the Stormlands.
What about the executive Seattle Slew? Executive Secretariat. Are you kidding me?
Secretariat. He's a horse, but he does good work, you know?
But guys, luckily not too many people are under investigation.
No.
Not too many people. Now, and also other sources have said that some of these people, including Huma Abedin, have already been interviewed. They will be re-interviewed at least once, possibly multiple times. That 8-week period, by the way, to complete the depositions will conclude in late June, conveniently.
No, when people, a lot of people are viewing this as a non-story. And to the point where even Bernie Sanders, at one of the first debates, says, I'm so sick of hearing about your goddamn emails, right? But turns out this is a real thing. Like, this is more serious than we've all, but I see the benefit that Hillary Clinton has is that she has been under investigation for bullshit things so many times. Benghazi, Travelgate, Whitewater, all this stuff and what they got him on was he lied under oath about a BJ. And so that's why she's going under oath. So they might not get her, but she might lie under oath about something, just like her husband did, right? So this is more, and by the way, her doing this is already wrong. Like, it's already illegal. If a regular person wouldn't have access to do this, but at the same time, if someone did something as egregious as what she's done, they'd already be under indictment.
Like if the Department of Transportation had an undersecretariat,
Yeah.
right, who had done a private email server, yeah, he'd be in a world of trouble.
World of trouble. That has secrets that other people... See, here's the thing. So now there's hackers who have said they've hacked into her email server. So that's why this is such a big deal.
So now that's the Romanian hacker Guccifer who's now been caught. People dismiss him, don't believe him.
You can.
But then they dismiss every part of this. I think Jimmy hit on a really important point that I want to emphasize and then break down for you guys what the different issues involved here, because everybody jumbles it into one, and it's just really, really wrong. Okay, so in terms of all the different scandals, that's right, and even I did this. Okay, I thought, they always throw stuff at the Clintons, right? And they've been throwing stuff at them for decades. And after all that Whitewater investigation, they got him having sex with an intern, right? But what nobody ever talks about is that it turns out at the end of the Whitewater investigation, even the most hardcore conservative Republicans said, yeah, he didn't do it. Yeah, Whitewater was nonsense. He didn't do anything wrong at all. Oops. But there was no oops because everybody was obsessed with the sex. And they had already moved on to the sex part, right? So that was nonsense. Benghazi's total, utter nonsense against Hillary Clinton, okay? And in the beginning, this started the same way. So it was like, oh, she used a private email account. But it's true that Colin Powell and other secretaries of state also used private email accounts. So it looked like, and to me as well, nonsense, right? Typical nonsense. They throw at the Clintons. Let's move on and stop talking about the damned emails. But I have to confess here that I was slow to react to the real story here. So what's the real story? So there's two different issues here. One is, okay, private email account versus private email server. Okay, so now, and I should have been, and I clarified this a little while back, and I should have clarified it much earlier for you guys, and it should have been better. I should have understood it better so that I could have explained why it's so important, okay? So a lot of people that have done the private email account, they shouldn't, and if classified information goes there, it's technically wrong. and just flat out wrong. But it's not that big a deal. And if you disagree with me on that, okay, that's fine. I hear you, and maybe parts of the FBI disagree with me on that. But it's something that is fairly regular occurrence, right? She built a server in her own house. That is not normal. That is very, very irregular, okay? So now there's a second reason why that's so important, other than the fact that it's bizarre and extraordinary, right? Because it shows you that she meant to evade something, right? You don't accidentally build a server in your house. It shows intent. And that is critical here, because then that gets to the distinction between criminal case and civil case. So now, the reality is she might not be indicted, and so you might be saying, wait a minute, it sounded like you were headed in that direction. And let me explain why. Because then you got to do one more bifurcation here. So it's one thing to prove intent that she knew she was sharing classified information in a way that she wasn't supposed to. That's criminal, right? And that is what the main investigation is about. That is very hard to prove.
Yeah.
And right now, according to these inside sources that Washington Post has, CNN has, by the way, those sources are from the State Department. The State Department is run by Democrats who are definitely pro-Hillary Clinton. Yes, that's true, Jimmy. I hear you on that. But they're not going to lie about that, because if it turns out that actually they were going to indict her, instead they'd be panicked going, but where's Biden? Where's Biden? I need somebody else to run in the race. Instead, they're very calm. They're like, oh, it doesn't look like they're going to indict her. So that's probably true. But now there's a secondary aspect of this. Okay, so that's the classified information. But she's looking to evade something. So what is it, right? Well, one of the issues is the Freedom of Information Act, and that is what she's being sued in civil court over, and what John just told you about with the judge's ruling, right? So now, if in the criminal case, which is happening right now, and it looks like she's going to have to testify under very secret circumstances to the FBI in about 2 weeks, okay? What I mean by secret is we all know she's going to testify, but they're going to make sure that there are no cameras around. So that's what they're coordinating now, because that would be embarrassing. We can't embarrass the powerful, right? So likely they will have an enormously hard time proving intent that she knew she was sharing classified information in a way that was illegal, right?
Information that was classified when it was shared.
And when it was shared, right? So, okay. So at some point, if the State Department is right, and they're very likely right? Otherwise they wouldn't have leaked it, they wouldn't be this confident. They will clear her of that and go, no, she did not. We couldn't prove that she intended to share classified information in an illegal way, right? But, and this is a giant but, so the guys suing her are Judicial Watch. It's a conservative group. They're not going to get off her ass, right? And I would be shocked if Hillary Clinton was actually guilty of the classified information thing, which is what I mean by that is, like, did she set up the private server in her house to make sure, I will share classified information with my aides, and maybe it'll get captured by a Romanian hacker? No, she has no incentive to do that. No, there's no reason she would do that, right? But on the civil charges, she doesn't want them to read her emails. That's the whole point of the private server.
She's incredibly private as a person.
Right. But if she doesn't want them to read her emails, there might be something in the emails. And when she gets deposed 8 weeks from now, right before the Democratic convention, you might find out what was in those emails. And by the way, because of the Freedom of Information Act, Judicial Watch, whether we hate it or not, is right. We do have a right to know what was in those emails. The American people do. Just because it's a conservative organization suing her to find out doesn't mean it's wrong. For example, why do we care? Is there any substance behind it? There could be. So here's this possible substance. The Clinton Foundation. From day one, and I want to give credit to Michael Isikoff here, who now works at Yahoo. He told me a year ago, he's like, Cenk, it's the Clinton Foundation. Look at the New York Times article. And he was right. I looked at it, and every indication is that Bill Clinton goes to speak at a country or to a person, gets paid a ton of money, or more likely just gives it to the Clinton Foundation. They get millions of dollars. And then lo and behold, so at the State Department, that country or person winds up getting what appears to be a favor. That's devastating. That's really bad, okay? And it turns out we might find out about it right before the election.
So that's
But
what
why are you assuming that we would find out about it then? Like, that could trigger a process that would lead to that, but why would all of it... I mean, there's thousands
You know
and thousands
why?
of emails.
So that's a great question, John. So she might be okay. So even though the civil proceedings are continuing, and they're gonna, it looks like they're gonna come to a head right before the Democratic convention, which couldn't be worse timing. Okay?
Well, unless it's
like right
Bernie
before the
Sanders,
election, right?
That could help him right before the convention.
So that's
If it scares the hell out of the superdelegates.
they're not going to. They're immutable. Those guys are never going to support Bernie Sanders, ever, 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 in my opinion. But I hope I'm wrong. Okay. So that's when the depositions happen. That's when you begin to find out things. But so maybe she'll just run out the clock, and we'll find out what was in the emails when she's, when she's president, right? Or after she's lost, right? And Donald Trump has her arrested. Okay.
And
but,
Ted Cruz prosecutor as AG.
But remember, the reason why this playing with fire and scares the hell out of me is the government, and including the judicial branch, is filled to the rim with Republicans, at least half, right? So a lot of Republicans will have access to court records. This case already leaks like a sieve. Everybody who wants to say like Hillary Clinton is guilty on the Republican side is leaking bad stuff. The ones who want to say, like the State Department today, leaking, she's not guilty, she's innocent.
Yeah.
They're leaking. Everybody's leaking, right? So if they have something really damning in the emails, and she desperately wanted to hide those emails, and then they leak it in the middle of the election in October, then you have the possibility of Donald Trump winning the election and setting the world on fire. Why on God's green earth would you take this risk? The Democratic establishment is playing with a fire they cannot control. And they're all blinded. No way on Bernie. He might lose. This incredibly wounded candidate, Hillary Clinton, with the highest unfavorables we have ever seen, nearly tied in the polls with Donald Trump as we speak, and with 12 FBI agents on her case and a civil case that's more dangerous in some ways, about to happen throughout the entire election cycle, and the Democratic establishment is like, nailed it. She's the one. And later, if we all get burned and Trump wins, you know what they'll say? Oh, it was those Bernie supporters. They didn't come around quick enough, right? It's their fault. No. Let's just be on the record and let's be clear. We warned you about this. I didn't warn you quickly enough. I'll take fault for that, okay? But we've been telling you about this for quite some time now. And we're getting a lot of heat for it. All the pundits out there, right? Oh, Cenk Uygur. Yeah, desperate. Talking about an indictment. He wants Bernie to win. Desperate. We're so smart. We're going to take the person who's under investigation, and her polling sucks. Because we're geniuses. Well, now I'm warning you. You're playing with fire. You might set the whole world on fire. Donald Trump today said he might declare bankruptcy with the United States of America and destroy the entire global economy, right? And you're like, nah, let's head into the election with the most wounded candidate the Democrats have ever had. Ever, right? Okay, have at it, Hoss. But then don't come crying later, because it won't be our fault. It will be 100% your fault. Yes, the people who voted for Hillary Clinton, and most especially the pundits and the Democratic Party, who all walked right into it. Like, oh, what? I don't see any trouble.
Right.
What cliff? I don't see a cliff. Let's just keep going straight ahead. And I'll take all the heat. And people watch this, and there you go. They'll say, there goes Cenk and the Young Turks again. They're so biased. And think about how hilarious that is. Every one of these people who have been telling you all throughout that an FBI investigation of a candidate is no big deal at all. If that FBI investigation was of Bernie Sanders, what do you think they would have told you? They're talking about bias? They're talking about bias. If 12 FBI agents were hot on Bernie Sanders' trail, and he was getting deposed in a civil case, and it looked like he was trying to evade something, and he has so clearly set up the private server to try to make sure that you didn't see what he was trying to hide, what do you think the pundits on TV would have said?